What is going on, guys? Inside MMA here, and we are back with another video. My predictions video will be coming out Friday for UFC Canada, but for now, I want to talk about UFC 327. Now, UFC 327 was not real. I still cannot process what occurred. um, Curtis Blades, Josh Hokett, Kostum Mirzakhanov, and Obergiri all in a row were just insane. And in my opinion, this was a fever dream. I literally still cannot process it. I've watched Hokett and Blades like 8 times. Costa has apparently entered his second prime somehow, and Yuri died again. So, um, yeah, Costa's back on the juice. Hokett Blades, and Carlos Ulberg is a one-legged champion. I'm gonna get into all this at the end of the video, but these are my matchups to make for UFC 327. Now, I do want to start with this one. Now, I know what I said, that I would only be doing main card winners, but then I said that I would only be doing like the winners of every big fight. Then when I did my matchups, I realized that I literally had every single fighter on the card except Francisco Prado as a matchup. So I was like, you know what? I'll just do the whole card. Why not? So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make matchups for all winners and losers of the pay-per-view card. And then for the fight night cards, I think I'm just going to do the winners and losers of all the main card fights on the fight night card. Or I might just do all of them. We'll see what happens. But first fight, Francisco Prado versus Pete Rodriguez. Now, I do want to talk about my ranking system that I have here. I will integrate this into my channel at some point. This is my own ranking system that I built. It's got all the weight classes in it. I have rankings and everything because there's not really a source of unranked rankings out there because everybody's unranked. Tapology does have some UFC unranked rankings, but they're horrible and nobody else really has a system. So I was like, alright, I know a lot about MMA. I'll make it myself. I'll keep tabs on the records and etc. etc. So there's 71 welterweights. Francisco Prado is number 68. He's 1-5 in the UFC. I'd be very surprised if he isn't released in this fight. But if he isn't, I doubt they'll give him like a highly touted prospect or anybody like that. So why not give him a fight that he has, a chance to win? And Pete Rodriguez, who I didn't even know was still in the UFC when I made my ranking system, he's still signed. He just is very inactive. I highly doubt this fight will happen. He's been out for like over a year and a half at this point. But, yeah, somehow, some way, he's still here. If this fight happens, Prado, he has an actual knockout against a Zaitar, who is pretty bad, but it's still better than nothing. And Pete Rodriguez has a win over Mike Jackson. He does have a loss to JDM, to be fair. So I can't sit here and be like, he's 1-2 in the UFC. His loss isn't bad, but I do want to see this matchup. Charles Radke. He had a pretty expected win against Prado. I did say it would be closer than people thought. He got tagged 30 seconds into the fight, but he did what I think a lot of people expected him to do, and that was just kind of wrestle his way to a victory here against Prado. Very impressive performance. He looked great, and I think he's deserving of someone in that top 30, and I think a perfect fight for him is Ramiz Brahimaj. Brahimaj is coming off a very close decision loss to Puna Soriano. Both guys had knockdowns. He just happened to gas a little earlier. I do want to see how the wrestling, evens out between these two. Radke does have good wrestling, but he hasn't really tested it against someone on that level. Like, he didn't really get a chance to test it against Malat or Prates or anybody like that. Daniel Franza sucks, and Prado is horrible. So I think this would be a great matchup. It gives a chance for Brahimaj to bounce back after a loss to Puna, and it gives Radke a chance to really go up in this weight class and, ride this 3-fight winning streak that he's on right now. Or sorry, 2-fight winning streak. No, 3-fight winning streak, sorry. And make it 4. So yeah. Kelvin Gastelum, as you can see, I tried to make him as big as possible in the stretched him out a little bit. Nobody would have realized if I didn't say anything. But Kelvin Gastelum, I expected Luque to win how he did, but I did not expect him to chin Gastelum that early on. Like, that was nasty. Luque looked really good. And Gastelum's kind of in a position where he just has to kind of wait out this weight class. Because if you don't know, I have my ranking system, like I said. Every single middleweight, except Belgaroy, Olajaychuk, and Abdul Malik, who are over Kelvin Gastelum, are all booked, including these two. The only two that aren't are Abus Magomedov, who supposedly has a fight booked, and Jung Park, who I think is injured. And the next guy is, I think, all the way at like number 42, 43. It's Cesar Almeida. So you don't really get a lot of options. And in between him is Trayshawn Gore and Zachary Reese, who both fought this year. And then it's Dustin Stoltzfus, Marc-Andre Barriault. Just a bunch of fights that don't really make sense for Kelvin. I think the loser of this fight makes a lot of sense because Vettori is on a 3-fight losing streak. You know, he's won one of his last 5 fights. He has not looked good. Nardiev is 3-2 in the UFC, 2-1 since his return. He has lost to Jung Park. His wins aren't necessarily insane. Bruno Silva, who got cut, and Ryan Loder, who won his UFC debut against the worst middleweight in the UFC and did really nothing else. So I think it's perfect for him to fight the loser of this fight. Nardiev, you know, losing to Vettori would be horrible for him, and that's a great bounce back. And Vettori will have had losses in 4 of his last 5 fights, which is insane. So yeah, I think I actually would like to see Gastelum Vettori. It makes a lot of sense. Vicente Luque, he's coming in at number 29 after that victory that he had. I want him to fight the loser of that White House fight between Kyle Daukaus and Bo Nickel. I think this is a perfect fight. I think Luque deserves such a big fight. Like I said, everyone in between the two of these guys are booked. I don't think there's one guy except Jung Park and Abus Magomedov who is ranked higher than Luque that isn't booked in the non-rankings. And even in the rankings, almost the whole weight class is booked. Like, it's pretty crazy right now. You know, Bruno Ferreira is booked. He is number 15. RoboCop is not, but that fight makes no sense for Luque because they literally train in the same gym and they're training partners. And everyone else is just kind of at a standstill at middleweight right now. So, yeah, I think personally Kyle Daukaus is going to get the win in this one. So we will get Luque and Daukaus, in my opinion. If it happens, it's a perfect fight. Both are submission specialists. Both are round 1 finishers. If we don't, we get Bo Nickel and Bo Nickel and Vicente Luque, which is a perfect matchup for both, in my opinion. I really want to see Luque get that opportunity. I don't think he'll get it done, but he did look really good at 185. So I think the loser of this fight is a perfect matchup for him. Next, controversial draw that he had. Markel Medeiros versus Cal Fernandez is what I want to see next for Medeiros. He had a draw, but he had a lot of success against a highly touted guy like Chris Padilla, you know. And I think he deserves a step up. He went up 5 spots for me. He was number 45. Now he's number 40. And I want to see him fight the number 37 Cal Fernandez. I think Cal Fernandez really doesn't have anywhere to go at 155 right now, and he's coming off of just destroying Harry Hardwick, which is aged incredibly, by the way, because of Rahiki's fight against Harry Hardwick, where Harry Hardwick took 150 punches to the face. So that was pretty insane. But now we're just kind of, we haven't seen Cal a lot, and he's been very inactive over his UFC career. I think he's 2-1, and he's been in the UFC for 4 years now, so he's not been around very much. But I do want to see him fight Markel Medeiros. I think it's a perfect matchup for both. Both are very good strikers, and not a lot of grappling will happen in this one, which is always good. Chris Padilla, he impressed me, man. Chris Padilla looked fantastic. His pressure looked great. And he just looked like a really good fighter, and I think a perfect matchup for him is the guy that Medeiros was actually booked to fight at 327, Nazim Sadikov. Sadikov's on the ropes right now. He's on the fence with an injury, I think, but he's 4-1 in the UFC. Padilla's 4-0 in the UFC. Both have a draw. I think it's a perfect matchup. Sadikov's very patient. Padilla's not going to allow him to be. 2 strikers, had decent grappling skill. Dirty boxing is fantastic from both. I really want to see this fight, and I think the winner of this could definitely punch their ticket. Probably another fight after this, and they could be a top 15 guy for sure. This one just makes sense. Both coming off of losses. Probably the two in that top 10 that haven't fought each other. Lupi Godinez and Amanda Lemos. This just makes sense. Both of these women have lost the majority of their fights via grappling. Lemos' last fight, Lupi's most recent fight, where she looked horrible IQ-wise, which is perfect because Amanda Lemos has no IQ whatsoever. I think these two would just brawl, to be honest. Godinez will probably get it done, but I think it's a perfect matchup. There's literally no one else for them to fight because they fought everyone else in the rankings. So this just makes the most sense. They're right next to each other. Tatiana Suarez, she looked horrible on the feet. Someone else that looks horrible on the feet that just grapples their way to a win every fight is Vina Jandiroba. I don't know how these two haven't fought yet. I guess Suarez was out for a very long time, so I guess you just couldn't make that matchup because Jandiroba wasn't as highly touted as she is now. But I don't think either of these women should get a title fight next. Jandiroba's coming off of a lot. Well, she did beat Sabitha Ricci, but that's not a big of a win to get yourself right back into the title picture. And, Suarez did lose to Zhang Weili last year, so I don't think she should get a Mackenzie Dern title shot just yet. I think either Zhang Weili should come back down, which it doesn't seem like she's going to do. It looks like she's going to fight in Macau, I've heard, at women's flyweight, which is definitely crazy because, a lot of guys and a lot of fighters will go back to their weight classes where they won the belt and defend it a lot of times, but I guess Zhang really wants to challenge herself. So, if this fight doesn't happen, one of them will probably get the title shot. It'll probably be Suarez, because Dern beat Jandiroba to win the belt, and she's 2-0 against her. But I would really like to see this matchup. It'd probably bore the shit out of everyone watching. Probably a co-main of a fight night. But, yeah, it's the matchup to make for sure. Esteban Ribovics, yeah, his performance was not fantastic, and that's exactly what I expected. He got ragdolled in his UFC debut. And he just doesn't have the wrestling to match a guy like Gamrot. It's just not the fight for him. But he is a violent guy. He will bring it on the feet. And I think if there's anyone that's going to give him that fight, it is Tofik Musayev, who just put on one of the best fights this year against Ignacio Bahamondes like 2 or 3 weeks ago in Seattle. This fight would be fight of the year, 100%. I think it's a tough one to call, honestly. Musayev did cheat against Bahamondes, and I don't think Bahamondes is the striker that Ribovics is, but he's definitely more skilled. This would be a banger fight. I really do want to see this. This fight makes so much sense. They're right next to each other in my rankings. Yeah, this is a perfect fight. Mateusz Gamrot, he looked great. He looked fantastic. He looked like himself, and that's the Gamrot that we've been kind of trying to see for the last 2 years. He's been kind of on a slump. I was thinking for both of these guys, they should fight Dan Hooker. I booked Moicano to fight Hooker after his performance. I was thinking Gamrot should fight Hooker in a rematch, but I just don't think anyone wants to see that. They know what the result's going to be. Yeah, Hooker might perform better than people expect against these two, but his grappling is just non-existent nowadays. So I really want to see this fight. Gamrot's calling for Paddy Pimblett, but I do think Paddy Pimblett's going to fight Benoit Saint-Denis, so it leaves these two who somehow haven't fought right in the middle of it. Two grapplers, both, highly touted, both doing great at 155. Honestly, there'd probably be a bit of trash talk between the two as well. I could see this being a fight night main event, and a fight that would be very competitive. Randy Brown. Randy just didn't look good. He just didn't look good. He looked good early, and he just got really tired from the pace Kev was putting on him, and you just can't let that happen to you. He did seem a little jittery, to be honest with you. He just didn't look like himself out there, and it's a huge step back, but like I said in my predictions video, he just doesn't perform when the lights are on him, and that showed again. And he is now 14-8 in the UFC, still has a great record in the UFC, and I think a perfect fight for him is the man that I have right under him, Neil Magny. There's no one for Magny to fight right now. There's no extreme prospects at 170 that are booked, or that aren't booked. I mean, you have Sung-Hyuk Ko, but I don't think that makes sense. Jacoby Smith deserves something way better than Neil Magny. And there's really no one else. Like, there's really no big prospects. I mean, JPL, John Paul Levesnani, Islam Dulatov, Ty Miller, Danilo Danchenko, But none of those fights really make sense. They're not really at the Neil Magny prospect test level yet. So I think Randy Brown should just get a huge bounce back fight against Neil here. Neil actually has a decent chance to me. He'll probably get knocked out, but yeah, I think this fight makes most sense. It's a good bounce back for Brown, and there's nothing really left for Neil Magny to do. I mean, I guess you could book him against Oralby, but that's just that's horrible. It's mean. Yeah, I like this fight for him. Neil Magny only fights killers, so gotta give him that. Kevin Holland. All right. Now, I do want to talk about this because it made me very mad. I had Kevin Holland booked in my matchups against Daniel Rodriguez. And the reason I'm making this video today instead of Thursday, which was my plan, is because they booked D-Rod to fight Leon Edwards at UFC 329, if you haven't heard. So I had to switch it up last minute. And I think this fight makes the most sense. I highly doubt it happens. But Kevin Holland versus Colby Covington is definitely what I want to see. I think Holland should definitely fight someone in the top 15. He's probably the best welterweight that's not booked. I'm looking at my rankings here. The only guy really close to him is Wonder Boy, Jeff Neal, Puna Soriano. None of these guys Kev should really fight. Maybe Jeff Neal. Maybe a Jeff Neal rematch would be something to watch. I actually wouldn't mind a Jeff Neal rematch, to be honest with you. But I just don't think. I think Jeff Neal should fight someone like Puna Soriano. Or maybe run it back with Steven Thompson. So yeah, I think Holland Covington makes sense. My original plan for Colby was I thought he would fight Gilbert, but Gilbert's obviously going to go out there and die in Canada. So Kev versus Colby makes a lot of sense. I don't see another fight that really makes sense. He already lost to MVP. Uros Medic doesn't make sense. Bonfim is booked. Buckley is booked. Literally everyone at 170 is booked, except for, Ian Gary, Michael Morales, who is supposedly booked, apparently. He is apparently booked. I don't know if it's Gary or Islam. But it has to be one of the two. And Kamaru Usman. And Uros Medic. And everyone else is booked. So it's a rough wait right now. But I think this fight makes the most sense. Colby, he's going to want to fight a guy who's going to talk back to him. You got to sell a fight somehow. And Holland is that guy. This is actually a winnable fight for Colby as well, in my opinion. The wrestling is a huge gap. In comparison to a guy like, a Joaquin Buckley. I think Buckley's takedown defense is miles better, even though it looked bad against Usman. Kev's been out-wrestled by guys like Gunnar Nelson, DeRitter, etc., even though DeRitter is kind of an elite grappler. I think this one would be competitive, and it'd be fun as shit. I think you should put it on International Fight Week, to be honest. Colby wants to come back on a big card. White House is passed. Give us Holland Covington. Or just have Trump say, yeah, why is Colby not on the card? Then we can do it, because apparently that's how it works here. Pitbull. Pitbull, man, he impressed me, honestly. Because even though he got beat as bad as he did, he looked... He has heart, man. He is tough. He is very tough. He's still in the top 15. I don't agree with that. But I don't think Pico or Pitbull should be in the top 15, to be honest. But I don't think he should fight outside of it. The only fight for him is Josh Emmett right now, and I don't think that one should happen, to be honest with you. I mean, it's not a bad matchup, but it just doesn't really make sense. There's guys outside the rankings like Dan Ige, who we already beat. Nathaniel Wood doesn't make sense. Delgado doesn't make any sense. Chieta kind of makes sense because they were booked to fight, but I think David Onama is a perfect fight to make. There's nowhere for Onama to go up at 145 right now. He lost to Steve Garcia, and he's kind of just sitting at this number 14 spot. I don't think he should fight a guy like Josh Emmett. I don't think he should fight a guy like Dan Ige either. None of those fights really make sense. I think Pitbull and Onama, they're right next to each other. Onama shouldn't fight up. It's a perfect fight to make. Aaron Pico. Now, there is one guy at 145 who isn't booked right now that would make sense for Aaron Pico, and it's Kevin Velayos. But I don't think the UFC will do that because they don't want to risk this opportunity with Pico. They have Pico exactly where they've wanted him since the start. This fight makes the most sense to make. The loser of Diego Lopez and Steve Garcia. Now, if Steve Garcia loses this fight, he'll probably either stay where he's at or fall below Kevin Velayos to number 10, so the fight even makes more sense. If Lopez loses or wins, I've heard he's going to 155 regardless. Gamrot called him out. So That's interesting. If he does go up, you know, it makes a lot of sense. You know, he's lost to the champ twice. There's no reason for him to really be here. Uh, but if he loses, I think this fight makes sense as well. Like, if he loses or wins, it makes sense because he's not going to get a title shot if he wins. If he loses, Pico has a huge chance to go, up in the weight. But I also think you can give that fight to Kevin Vallejos as well. Personally, I think Kevin Vallejos should fight the winner of Arnold Allen versus Melky Costa. That's my opinion. I think that makes so much sense. That's a banger. Um, but yeah, I think this is huge. Pico's he's really in a spot where he could take advantage and get a huge step up because I don't think they're gonna give him an unranked guy. So he's got an up opportunity considering I just put 15 and 14 against each other. So yeah, Nate Landwehr, man, he looked bad. I know. Complete credit to Cub. Cub looked fantastic. Cub looked like the best he has in years, literally years, over a decade. He looked fantastic. He looked great, and Nate Landwehr got beat up, man. And Nate Landwehr is kind of on the back burner now. He has nowhere to really go. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. And I think he should be given a veteran here. And I was thinking you put him in there with a guy like Leron Douglas, but that's just disrespectful to Leron Douglas. So, C-Rod just got booked against Hyder Emil. Those two were definitely in my names to put him in against. And then right in between all those guys is Andre Fili. I think this fight makes perfect sense. Fili looked great last time out against one of the best featherweight prospects in the world in Jose Delgado. And he's just looked great, but he came off a loss. He's 13-12 in the UFC. The fight makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to make. I don't think Landwehr should fight like a Julian Erosa, considering he lost to Erosa. So it doesn't make sense to run that one back. I don't think he should fight the guys who are like kind of the prospects in the rankings. Montez, McMillan, Delano, all those guys. It doesn't really make sense. I think this fight is perfect to make. Two vets are going to go out there. They're going to fight. You probably put it on a fight night main card. If this fight were to happen, I think Fili probably puts him out, to be honest. But this would be the type of fight that Andre Fili loses. So, yeah. Johnny Walker. Oh, my God. This dude. His performance was something else. I don't even have anything to say about it. Let's just say he lost his fight against Dominic Reyes, and we'll leave it at that. He's in a position where I don't see him fighting down. He's too much of an acclaimed rankings guy to fight downs, or to fight, outside of the rankings is what I mean. Also, the non-ranked spots at that weight are horrible right now. But I think the perfect fight to make is him versus Nikita Krylov. Nikita Krylov is coming off of kind of a career resurgence against Modestas Bukauskas. I think this fight makes perfect sense to make all around. Two vets, they're going to go out there, they're going to swing. I don't know how these two haven't fought each other yet. It's kind of crazy because they've been around for so long. But this fight makes perfect sense to make. Krylov could win, Walker could win. Two chinny guys. Hopefully it's not a boring decision like the Reyes fight. But as for Dominic Reyes, he kind of saved his career a little bit, man. He saved his career with that, not the performance, but with the win. And honestly, he has nowhere to go but up to me. The only guys that he hasn't fought that are in the rankings, inside, like, kind of that area, are Alexander Rakic, who's making a move to heavyweight, Volkan Oezdemir, who he beat, Azamat Murzakanov is right above him, but I doubt they fight. And then it's Jamal Hill at number 6, and this fight just makes perfect sense. Hill is on a big 3-fight losing streak. It's the perfect comeback fight for him. He can definitely knock out Dominic Reyes, and Reyes can knock him out as well. I think there's nothing but good for whoever wins this fight. I think it's a perfect fight to make. Man, Curtis Blades. This dude is tough, man. I don't know how Josh Hogan didn't knock this man out. He threw everything he had in him, and Blades did not. He didn't even really look phased after the first round. He was just eating stuff the whole way. Respect to both of those guys. I'm an MMA fan, man, and no matter how much people talk, I'm gonna respect an MMA fighter for doing what they do. Josh Hogan made me a fan with that fight, and I hated him for a long time. Not just on the week of that fight. I've hated Josh Hogan for a long time since he was in Bellator. So that was definitely something. But Curtis Blades, Sergey Spivak, it's literally the only fight to make at 265. Everyone else above those guys is booked. Everyone underneath besides Kuniev, who Blades fought, is booked. And now Spivak taking that spot above Blades. This fight makes perfect sense to make. Two guys who have a grappling background. Spivak striking looked the best it ever, looked last fight. Perfect fight to make. Don't have to say too much about this one. This one got announced the night of. Save me extra time. Josh Hoka, Derek Lewis. This fight seemed delusional when it got announced, but honestly, I like it. I like it a lot. Not just for the guys who were in it, but it makes perfect sense considering if you look at the rankings, Kuniev just fought. Blades and Spivak should fight each other. There's no one else. There's literally no one else, above Derek Lewis for Hoka to fight. There's no one there. Waldo is booked, Sergey is booked, Volkov's booked, Gon is booked, and Tom is out. It's a perfect fight, honestly. Azamat Mirzakhanov versus Volkan Oezdemir. This one makes perfect sense. Mirzakhanov fought, in my opinion, his first elite opponent and got dog walked pretty bad. His gas tank failed like it always has right after round 2, and that's when he got knocked out. He couldn't hang with Paulo. Paulo looked great. It looked like he was going to gas Paulo out at the end of the second, and then Paulo decided, yeah, I'm going to kick your arm off. Like, Jesus, he was kicking that arm. It was bad. But there's no other fight for Azamat to get. I don't think he should fight, super far down. He's still a top 10 guy. He's still one of the best light heavyweights in the world. And the only guy, like we just discussed, that's not booked is Volkan Oezdemir. This fight makes perfect sense. Oezdemir should fight up, absolutely. The close decision to Oldberg is aged so well. He doesn't have that many losses. He knocked out Johnny Walker. He's looked the best he's ever looked recently. He's coming off a round 1 KO against the number 15 Menefield. Give Volkan Oezdemir a chance in the top 10. And this one. Paulo Costa versus Magomed Ankalaev for the UFC Interim Light Heavyweight Championship. This is the fight to book. Now, I've thought about this one a lot. There's nowhere for light heavyweight to go right now. It's in like a restart phase because of the injured Oldberg. And I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, there's no one for Oldberg to really fight. Like, he's going to be out for a very long time. And this just makes the most sense. Paulo Costa versus Ankh for the interim belt. I originally had these rankings as Costa Oldberg, Prohaska, Ankalaev. But now that I know that Oldberg's going to be out, this fight makes more sense than anything. Yuri shouldn't get an interim opportunity or another title shot. Blachowicz is booked against Guskov. Roundtree is supposedly booked against Robert Whittaker. Jamal Hill shouldn't get an opportunity like that. Mirzakhanov shouldn't get an opportunity like that. Reyes shouldn't get an opportunity like that. Guskov, Oezdemir, and the rest of the rankings. This fight makes perfect sense. Costa shouldn't be fighting a guy like, Jamal Hill. Khalil Roundtree is booked like we've discussed. And Costa Yuri makes 0 sense. This is a perfect fight to make. Costa says he's in a good position to fight for the belt. Oldberg wants Ankh. He's not going to get him anytime soon. Ankh's been out for a while. He wants a fight. Fight makes perfect sense. Book it for the interim title. If not, just make it a normal contender fight. I don't know why they would make it interim, considering Oldberg's going to be out for a very long time. But this will save light heavyweight in the time that light heavyweight is cooked right now. So Costa had a great performance. He looked like Paulo Costa. It was crazy. And he's back on the juice. Give him Ankh. Starts this little Russian bum in the first round. And, yeah. Yuri Prohaska versus the winner of Jan Blachowicz and Bogdan Guskov. Like I said, I had this as Prohaska Ankh. I still think that fight could happen, but if it does, I think Paulo should get the shot over whoever wins. Yeah, this fight makes the most sense. Jan Blachowicz's losses have aged extremely well. Now, he's lost a close decision to the champ, a close decision to the former champ, and a draw with the other former champ. So, I mean, all of his losses were extremely competitive. I think you easily could score the Alex and Oldberg fights for him. And he's fighting Bogdan Guskov. I think Bogdan is going to lose this fight, so I think it will end up being Blachowicz and Yuri. If not, Guskov's on a hot streak right now. He does have that debut loss to Oezdemir, but he hasn't lost since then. So, the fight makes perfect sense for either guy. if Blachowicz doesn't win, you get a high-level prospect like Guskov that you can try and raise by giving him a guy like Yuri. I'm going to get into Yuri after this, by the way. And then, like I said, Carlos Ulberg, the new champ, versus the winner of Kostin Onk. It makes the most sense. Ulberg might be out for so long that the interim championship is crowned, and he'll still be out, which is crazy. But you can't blame him. I mean, he injured his leg. So, yeah, I think this fight just makes perfect sense. It's a great first defense for Ulberg, and it makes light heavyweight competitive again rather than just booking him against one or the other. I mean, this light heavyweight division needs something. And I think this is the perfect, it's the perfect thing to get it started, is what I'm trying to say. That was UFC 327. Those are my matches to make. A lot to discuss. Man, this card was something. This card was something else. And in my opinion, it's saved MMA for me, man. I have not seen a card like that in a long time, where it felt so complete and perfect. It was one of the best cards of all time, in my opinion. The card was great from top to bottom the whole way through. Even those two fights the only bad fight was really Reyes and Walker. Every other fight delivered. Prado and Radke was a banger. Suarez and Godinez was kind of boring, but it was a second round sub. Medeiros and Padilla was fantastic. Cub and Landwehr was fantastic. Gasol and Luque was a round 1 finish. Ribovics and Gamrot was a round 2 finish. Brown and Holland was alright. Pitbull and Pico was fantastic. Blaze and Hockett was one of the greatest fights of all time. Costa Mirzakhanov was fantastic. Ulberg Prohaska was fantastic. This card was complete. I've seen cards. The last card that I watched where I was like, wow, this was a really good card was probably UFC 323. I really liked that card a lot. Not just for the main event, but because Talbot and Cejudo was great. Guskov and Blachowicz was fun to watch. It was a really good card all around. But like besides that, a lot of these cards just under-deliver. They have the talent, but they don't have that excitement anymore. And this saved more than just MMA for me. This saved the whole heavyweight division. I have to give it to Josh Hockett. I think he's fantastic. The dude, is one of the best fighters we've seen in a long time in terms of personality. He's saving the UFC. He's not just one of those guys like Colby who just talk politics and shit. Yeah, he's pretty controversial, but he's a fun dude. He's just funny. It is corny, but you kind of got to act corny to have personality in UFC. As we saw, Prohaska got flatlined, unconscious. The mercy thing, I think, is not true. He was kicking the leg over and over again. People try to say it's the other leg. It definitely was not. He kicked the same leg over and over and over again. People are saying, oh, but he stood to the center. Yeah, and then he let Ulberg charge at him with the injured leg and throw 3 hooks that he blocked. So there was no mercy shown. I think that's just a bunch of BS, some copium, as he woke up. I'm not blaming Yuri and saying he did it on purpose, but you're going to tell yourself, like, man, I could have won that fight if you're seeing a guy on an injured leg. And, you're going to say that you were giving him mercy. It makes sense. But this card, yeah, perfect the whole way through. A happy retirement to Cub Swanson, one of my favorite fighters of all time, by the way. Low battery. But this card was something, man. But yeah, like I said, my UFC Canada predictions will be coming soon, and hopefully UFC 328 is just like this card. I highly doubt it because Chimaev's going to go out there and lay on Sean Strickland for 25 minutes. But a man could hope. Welcome back, MMA. This card saved the UFC, man. It really did. It saved the excitement of the UFC. It saved the value of the UFC, and in my opinion, it saved making these random cards like UFC Canada, which is built up to be the worst card of all time, a card worth watching. But with that, I've been Inside MMA. See ya.